All right, well, thank you everybody for coming. Can you hear me okay? So my name is Bill Laberge. My company is Grassroots Solar. We're located here in East Dorset, and I'm on the Dorset Energy Committee. And so the Dorset Energy Committee is the one who put this on. There are a number of members of the Energy Committee. Could you raise your hand? Jim, Nancy, Jim, Ellen. They're the reason I'm here, so they made me do it. But you can also ask them questions. Are there any other people who are members of other energy committees? So you got a few more energy committee members around. The energy committees are really put together to help the municipalities figure out how they can save taxpayers' money. Reducing their electric charges, reducing their heating charges, et cetera, citing energy in the town. So they're a really good source of information. Kudos to everybody who's working on those, and feel free to use them as a resource. I also want to thank the Manchester Community Library for this amazing space that we have here, and we're able to take advantage of it. And I also want to thank GNAT-TV. Mark is over here recording this. Hopefully it'll be halfway decent quality, and we'll be able to post it somewhere so all your friends and neighbors who weren't able to come will be able to access that. And so what we have with the Inflation Reduction Act is a kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Homeowners, businesses, municipalities, nonprofits, there are a plethora of opportunities that we can use to our advantage right now. And this is a bunch of money is going to be raining down. It's statewide, it's federally. So I'm going to try and help you understand how to wade through some of the information. There's a lot of acronyms and programs, and so I'm going to see if we can wade through that. So this is the guidebook. If you go to cleanenergy.gov, I recommend you do that. You can download the guidebook. It's 185 pages. If you want to sleep at night, it might be a good way to do that. But you can also sign up for their email list. And what they'll do is, as I'll start to explain, a lot of their stuff they're just putting together as we speak. It's to be determined. If you go through this guidebook and they ask what the implementation date is, it's TBD. So I'll be talking about mostly stuff that's implemented now. There's a lot of other things that are coming down the pike, so I recommend that you get on their email list. This is the largest clean energy investment in American history. So what they're trying to do is help people reduce their greenhouse gas emissions and be able to use clean energy for everything that we do. Drive our car, heat the air, heat your water, cook your food, dry your clothes, how you get your power, how you store your power, how you use your power during a power outage. And to do that all regardless of your income level. So part of the focus on this is access, environmental justice, access. They're really focusing on what they call energy communities, and I'll get into some detail about that, but that is old brownfields, old coal mines, extra incentive to put things there. Emphasis on rural America. Hey, that's us. Tribes and tribal land, and really how to make this work for working families. So it's pretty comprehensive. I'm going to mostly focus on what works for our homes, what works for municipalities. I'm not going to get into the clean aviation fuel aspect of it, but there's some pretty cool things. And actually, if you download the guidebook, you can search, farmers. What's out there for farmers? Forestry. There's a lot of regenerative agriculture, a lot of sequestration, carbon sequestration in forests. So there's a lot of that aspects in there. I'm not going to get into a lot of that tonight. I'm happy to discuss it anytime with someone. But basically what they're telling you is that as you electrify your home, and these are a number of ways that you can do it, first and foremost, you're going to save money. I mean, the goal of this bill is to actually reduce your greenhouse gas emissions, but the first thing you're going to find is you're going to save a lot of money. You're going to have a healthier home. There are studies coming out left and right now about the ill effects of propane cook stoves in your house, propane boilers igniting in your basement. So moving away from all of that, the emissions in your house, you're going to end up with a healthier home. This is one way that each individual can actually help fight climate change. So we've always talked about, really changing light bulbs. Is that too little? And really waiting for the federal government, is that too late? I've always said that it needs to be the community that helps fight climate change. And what they've done with this is they've kind of identified and incentivized aid for this large community. And the community is those of us who have electricity. And that's pretty much every one of us. So this is an opportunity where, as every single person does this, and even if they're doing it, if they're motivated by saving money, if they're motivated by a healthier home, you're also going to help solve climate change. So I think that's a really good bonus. One of the great aspects of it too is taking control of your energy costs. So my wife and I drive 2 electric cars. We heat with heat pumps. When gas went to $6 a gallon, we didn't even notice. We're powering it with our solar. I drove by the gas station one day and went, oh my goodness. My company, we have to put gas in those, and so I feel it there. But as you electrify and start to get away from the fossil fuels, you lose that fear of volatility. It's going up to 6, it's going down to 3. So you gain control. That's another aspect of it. This is my disclaimer. I am not an accountant, nor do I play one on TV like Ben Affleck. There's going to be a lot of interesting steps and eligibility requirements. So you're going to have to work with an accountant, or if you're an accountant, get into the weeds because they're really kind of rolling this out as they go. So accountants are going to be on their toes, and they're going to be having to just keep up with eligibility requirements, et cetera. And now I'm going to talk about the different. There's a bunch of verbiage that everybody's using in a variety of ways. And so credits and rebates. You're going to find out the federal income tax credits. And this has always been a kind of a bug for me, because if you install solar, you get a 30% tax credit. But you have to pay for it all up front. And then when you go file your taxes the next year, if your system costs $20,000, you're going to get $6,000 back. Well, you have to wait till April. You got to file your taxes, or you can file it a little earlier, and then you're going to get it back. Well, you have to have paid in $6,000 in income tax in order to get that back. If you only paid in 4, well, you'll get 4, and you can do it over a couple of years, but it's a cumbersome transaction. I have said all along that they should just have it be a rebate. There was talk as they were starting to do this bill about having a rebate in lieu of tax credit. That was not included. So there's still going to be some tax credits. So just understand that the vehicle, anytime that there's a tax credit involved in here, you got to pay the whole thing up front, and then you got to go catch that tax credit. One group is calling them discounts. Well, the discounts are really upfront discount. It's a rebate, So what's happening is there's a lot of state administration of federal rebates. So it's really a federal program, but but state administering it, and then there are some local rebates. So I'll get into some of those, but there's a wide range of how you're going to monetize this and take the most advantage of it. You can stack them, so something might be eligible for tax credit. It may also be, you may get a rebate from the utility. So there's going to be a lot of mixing and matching. Get to know Energy Efficiency Vermont. They're leading the charge right now in handing out rebates, et cetera. We've got some information on the table there. So I'll probably mention their name several times. So this is a fun one. This is the Homes Rebate Program, and it's the homeowner managing energy savings. So In this case, it's a weatherization, adding insulation, appliances, heat pumps. It's a program that your return depends on how much you've saved. So I'm going to tell you this at least a half a dozen times today. Get an energy audit. Step number one, get an energy audit. I can't say it again, get an energy audit, because, and we have this discussion with every single one of our solar customers. We say, we want to look at your whole energy portfolio. So with the solar, we try and offset how many kilowatt hours you use. Well, but if you're heating with fuel oil, how about if we put in heat pumps? Now you've got some kilowatt hours instead of oil. You can offset that. So we're starting to figure out what that whole energy portfolio looks like. So this is similar. You want to get an energy. We need some modeling for what your energy use is, so that they can measure your energy savings, and that's going to determine how much, in this particular program, how much money you're going to get back. So there are low and moderate income households that'll qualify for double the rebate, and they're eligible for up to 80% of project costs in this particular program. So in this case, you can get $8,000 on heat pumps if you cut your energy use by 35%. If you're only cutting it by 20%, then you get a lesser rebate. So different programs have either income eligibility or not. And then this is another fun one. It's HERA, the High Energy Electric Home Rebate Act. As you see on the bottom line there, information on how to claim this rebate is not yet available. So there's a lot of these. They're going to get rolled out this year. It's going to make it a little bit awkward, because I'm going to show you, when you put in a service panel, you can get $600 rebate right now. Well, you might be able to get a $4,000 rebate later. So the timing of each of these programs can be a little bit awkward. But then this is also this is income dependent as well. So they offer low to medium income families up to $14,000 a year in rebates, Again, this is income based, and they're going to look at the whole your whole package. Who qualifies for the homes rebate program is everybody. So the low to medium income households will earn more cash back, but everybody can be eligible for it. And then the HERA program that I was talking about is only for medium and low and medium income families. And so just to define what that is for all these programs, low income is defined as you're making less than 80% of the area's median income. And I think when they say area, I think it's by county. So what county do you live in? What's the median income? And so low income is less than 80% of that. Medium is up to 150% of that. So those are the markers that they're going to use for each of those programs. When it was first rolled out, these were the goals that they spoke of. They want to 2.4 million homes, electrification upgrades in low to moderate income communities, and that's with the HERA program that we're talking about. And then the home energy retrofits from the homes program in 1.2 million homes. The heat pump installations, that's with tax credit 25C. They want to do the plan is to do 7.2 million homes. Newly constructed efficient homes, and there's a lot of interesting rebates on how you construct your home. Builders are going to have to key in on this, and they want to do 650,000 homes. And then there's also some commercial space retrofitting. There's money available for that as well, hoping to do 115 million of those. So I don't know if I said it once or twice or 6 times, but I'm going to say it again. Get an energy audit. I think there's cards for the Heat Squad over there. That's who we recommend. Heat Squad comes in. As it turns out, you can get a $150 tax credit for doing your energy audit. So that's a bonus. And now, as you start to do these home energy audits, you can start to look at up to $1,200 per year for energy saving renovations, as long as those improvements are made to a non-commercial home. And this is one of the few things that you can get if you're a renter as well. So if you're insulating your windows, if you're doing, there's not a lot of these incentives for renters. I'm going to show you a calculator at the end, and you can put in whether you're a homeowner or a renter. and there's a big difference in what you can do. But there are some that are available. And so EVs, how many people have an EV? How many people are thinking about getting an EV? Okay, so you're going to want to go do it now. So there was a $7,500 tax credit for electric vehicles. And then what happened was they had a cap of 200,000 cars per manufacturer. So Tesla reached their 200,000, GM reached their 200,000, so they stopped doing those tax credits on those. So they've eliminated the cap, so now it's wide open. But they're going to add limitations, and part of the limitations is going to be domestic content. And as we all know, we don't make anything in the United States, certainly not electric vehicles, batteries, et cetera. So what they're doing is they're going to have a little bit of a slow rollout. As of January 1st, the $7,500 tax credit is available. March 1st, you're going to only be able to get half of that. So $3,750 is going to disappear because of the domestic content. Now, they're going to announce it in March. I say March 1st. It might be March 15th. But they said as soon as they publish, kind of just put the word out that they're changing it, that's the day it stops. So my advice is if you're thinking about doing it in the next couple of months, don't wait till April because you'll lose $3,750. And then, once they publish that proposed guidance, then that's when the rules changed. Basically, what these are designed to incentivize automakers to start making batteries, assembling the electric vehicles here. Starting in 2024, this $7,500 tax credit, and I've explained the vehicle of the tax credit, it's actually going to become a rebate at the dealer. So that's good news. We're heading in the right direction. The other really good news is on this. They actually now have a tax credit for used electric vehicles. So the EVs have been around long enough that now there's some used out in the market. When my wife and I are on our third Nissan Leaf, the first one we had when we traded it in, it still had 90 mile per charge, which is not great if you want to commute to Burlington and back, but if you're living in Manchester and you use it to go to work and take the kids to practice or whatever, it was probably available at that time for $15,000, and if you got a $4,000 tax credit, that's bringing the price of that. It's making local transportation pretty affordable. Carl?
Take a note, the tax credit for solar panels can roll over year to year.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Mars only the year you bought.
Okay, so he said I was going to talk about the tax credit being able to roll over on the solar, but he's saying for the car it's a one-shot deal.
How many per household in cars?
That's a great question. I'm not sure on that.
Per person within the house? How many per car?
Yeah, that's a great question. And one of the things that you're going to do is you're going to have to lean on when the car dealer, because what they're going to do, a lot of it is income sensitive as well. So these are some of the income limits for single taxpayers, heads of households, if you're doing the used car credit. I don't like to have a bunch of numbers and stuff up on there, but I wanted to show that. And then there's also a price on there's a cap on the price of the vehicle as well. So there's a $55,000 cap on smaller sedans and $80,000 for SUVs, trucks, and vans. So the trickiest, EVs are tricky right now just because of this domestic content. I noticed that on, I think Drive Electric Vermont, we have a flyer from them. And they're talking about which EVs are available in Vermont, and they don't have the Bolt EV and the Bolt on the list. I mean, it's on the list, but they're not saying it's available, and we just got one. So it's not always current, and Nissan just came out with a new vehicle that's going to replace what has been their Leaf. So I don't know if that's on there. So really, when you go to the dealerships, they're going to be able to tell you about what the income limitations are, how many per household. They're also going to tell you there's a lot of Like Green Mountain Power actually has a rebate for if you get an electric car. You know, they're kicking in $1,000 for you to get an electric car. So there's the federal programs. There's a lot of state rebate programs that are federal programs administered through the state, but then there's also some local local additions. And one of those is on the charger. So in Vermont, or at least if you're in Green Mountain Power's territory, if you buy or lease a new electric vehicle, they give you a charger. Now, other places probably don't do that. And if you did have to pay to install it, there is a tax credit in this bill that you'll receive a 30% tax credit to install it. So so Green Mountain Power will give you this. You're still going to have to pay an electrician to install it. So there will be some costs incurred. Any installation, permitting, or whatever that you need, those are eligible for that 30% tax credit. It's great that they're offering a free charger. There are going to be some expenses, so you will be able to get a tax credit on that. And how many people have heat pumps? And how many people are planning on getting heat pumps? Okay, well, when heating oil goes to $6 a gallon, it really makes you rethink how you heat your house. Yeah, heat pumps we're moving towards the electrification of our heating sector. My wife and I got them a couple years ago for heating purposes. And to me, it was an absolute total bonus that I didn't even know about, that it provides air conditioning. And you know what? In August now, we need air conditioning more than we used to. It was absolutely an added bonus. So there are again, there's going to be this 30% tax credit for a lot of the heat pumps. And again, depending on which program, in this one particular program, they're saying that the heat pump has to have the highest efficiency rating, and in order to be eligible for the 30% tax credit. And also, you have to be replacing a heating system that was less efficient. So if you had heat pumps and you're putting in new heat pumps, they just have to be more efficient, which they probably are, because if it's more up to date, then it'll be more efficient. But so for the couple of this program that we had talked about, the HERA for low-income households, it'll cover 100% of the cost of your heat pump up to $8,000. So that's pretty substantial. For moderate income households, it'll cover 50% of your heat pump costs up to $8,000. Again, they're rolling out this HERA as we head into the spring. So we'll have more details on that. But I'll get back to what I said, the first thing you need to do. Once you get that energy audit, then you're going to know that you need 2 12,000 BTU heat pumps or whatever it is. Whether you're a municipality, whether you're a homeowner, I urge you to start looking at what you might need, because then the opportunities are going to come up.
I had an energy audit, maybe 4 years ago. And it was then I did some attic insulation and installed the heat pump. Is it worth doing again?
So she had an energy audit about 5 years ago, did some weatherization, added some heat pumps, and wants to know if it's worth doing again. I would say probably yes. I would look at, from that, a typical energy audit is going to give you a list of A to Z. You insulate your attic, seal your basement. And so they're going to give you a list of things that you should do, and really lay out the cost of each. What's the low-hanging fruit? What's the cheapest thing? What's the most effective? And so I will say that appliances now are just super efficient. And actually when we go into a house to talk to people about solar, my question is, do you have a 20-year-old freezer in your basement? Because if you do, you're losing money by owning that thing. Get rid of it. They have a program where they'll take out old appliances. You buy a new one, and it'll pay for itself in like 2 years, because that's how much energy that tank of a freezer in your basement was using. So, and I'm not saying that your 5-year-old heat pumps are that tank of a freezer, But it might not be a bad idea. And if I don't know how much energy audit costs, you're going to get a $150 tax credit. Ellen?
$150.
There you go. So it's $150, and it might not be a bad idea to go ahead and do that because now, 5 years later, there's different technology, and so they might have different recommendations. Was there another question back there? Yep.
It says the heat pump costs up to $8,000. What is a general cost? I mean, I understand the data, I'm sure, but.
Yeah, we use it's going to depend on which model you're using. I would say typically around $6,000 is for a medium-sized heat pump installed. I could be way off on that. It's not, I don't install them. I can give you a name of a guy we recommend. But if you're going to do 3 units, then you're looking at a larger cost. So that's where it can start to get up to where, saving $8,000 is helpful. Yep.
I recommend you get different bids, because I got 2 bids that were $8,000 apart.
Yeah, so Carl makes a good point. You want to get quotes. The other thing I want to recommend is that when you talk to an installer, make sure that your installer knows about the list of units that are eligible for tax credit. I have a very unhappy customer who decided he was going to go with a cheaper unit and went for his rebate from Efficiency Vermont, and they said, "No, sorry, that's not on the list. Your installer should know that." So you want to make sure that they are up to speed on what the rebates are, which units are eligible. Yep.
Is this a federal or state program here?
That's a federal program.
I see.
And so as we, sorry.
I just had a question. Do you have to, with a heat pump, do you have to supplement it with other forms of heating and real cold weather?
So he's asking if you need to supplement heat pumps. 5 years ago, when she was looking at having it done, the technology was a little bit different. I would say now when you talk to installers, then they would say, make sure you keep your backup system, that you'll never use. Now these systems can operate down to 30 below. What happens is if it's 30 below, they're still going to operate. They're just not going to be 300% efficient. So they'll still heat. So I don't know if installers are telling you to keep your old system. Jim?
Well, they will say to keep the backup system, but I think that's the point that drives home. You want to get an audit first, because if the house is very leaky and you decide not to do the insulation work and put in a heat pump in a leaky box, it is not going to work well.
Yeah, so Jim's making the point that you may end up having to keep your clunky old oil burner if you don't weatherize your house, and if the drafts are just blowing through the house. So really the lowest hanging fruit is stopping that cold air from blasting through your house, doing the weatherization, and then you may find when they do an energy audit, what they're going to do is they're going to look at how much air is blowing through your basement, blowing out up through your attic. So how much heat are you losing? So they're going to look at the exchange, how much heat is being lost, and therefore how many BTUs you're going to need. Once you seal it, then you're not losing all those BTUs, and so then it becomes a different heating system. So
That's also going to depend on the size of the house too.
yep, absolutely. Yeah, so they come and do a measurement. They'll see how many windows you have, how much, where your loss is, and they're going to look for the lowest hanging fruit, and then where you're able to take the biggest advantage. So as you get your heat pumps and as you get your electric car, some of you might have a janky service panel like this in your basement, and I only say that because this one's mine. This is in my basement. We have 200-year-old houses. Some of our service panels are a little older than others. So what they've done is they recognize that we need to upgrade. So as part of these programs, you can save up to $4,000 with the HERA rebates. And again, that's going to be coming out later. And again, it'll be income dependent, but there is going to be fairly substantial rebates for upgrading your service panel. right now, there's a tax credit, there's 25C tax credit, and so as we talk to people about putting in solar, we don't necessarily have to upgrade your service panel. A lot of times we can get around that. But if you're going to put in heat pumps, well then, it's a good idea to, as you're doing it all together, and then you'll be eligible for this up to $600 for an electric panel upgrade.
Just a basic question. What are the benefits of upgrading the service panel?
Because a heat pump needs to be on a 2-pole breaker. 30 amp, 40 amp breaker. Your solar might be a 40 amp breaker. Your electric car charger is going to be a 30 amp, 40 amp breaker. So you're starting to, I can show you in that service panel, I have 0 room for any more breakers. So we actually did heat pumps and ended up putting a sub panel off of it. And I'm talking to a customer right now. We're going to be doing solar. She's completely adding a bunch of heat pumps and everything, and with just this tiny little frightening 100 amp service panel. Now's an opportunity to be able to, you have to put this in anyway. Now you've got some money that'll help pay for it. And again, I wish the $600 up to $600 tax credit is available now. I'm interested in that $4,000. That's a little bit better number for people. And don't ask me how much a service panel upgrade is. We're going to talk to electricians if you can find one. So then we're going to talk about a few other appliances and other things around the house. Induction stoves. These are going to be the big thing. I talked to one appliance company here in town. He said they're going to have just these available. There's more and more studies that are showing, and there's another one that came out yesterday about the really bad health effects of having a gas cook stove. And I know we all love the flames and everything, but how much asthma it's causing with kids. I know when I'm around my grandkids and there's a gas stove and I can smell the gas, and I know that they're breathing it in. Anyway, so we're going to be moving towards induction stoves. This credit is going to be, here it says late 2023. I don't know what that means. I'm hoping that means the middle, but you'll be able to save up to $840. Again, Efficiency Vermont, I think it's Efficiency Vermont, has the program where if you're replacing an appliance, they'll take away your old one. So this one's also going to be income dependent as well. And then heat pump hot water heaters. Does anybody have a heat pump hot water heater? These are really cool. So they'll give you hot water. They'll also dehumidify your basement. So the technology is really interesting, super efficient. When my boiler died 10 years ago, these were just coming out, and they were too tall. My basement, where you saw that service panel, is about this tall, and I couldn't fit one of these in there. And I deeply regret it, because now I'd love to have one of these. Same thing. It's going to be coming out. You want to check the model with your installer. Make sure that it's eligible. One other thing, when I talk about checking with your installer, some people are DIYers, love to do their stuff themselves. Boy, it's a tough way to go when it comes to credits, when it comes to rebates, when it comes to warranties. So you might pay a little bit more to get an installer, and as Carl said, get a couple of quotes, but it's going to be really helpful to do the rebates and everything when you've got an installer that helped you do it. And this one's going to be worth up to $1,750, again with some income restrictions. And does anybody have a heat pump clothes dryer? I just found out about this, and I'm kind of in love. It's pretty cool. So rather than having that stupid vent going through my basement and it's always getting kinked up and full of lint and everything, this actually sends air through an evaporator and to remove the moisture. And so basically it can be placed anywhere in your home with no vent work. I've got to see this, I'm very intrigued. So as soon as someone gets one, let me know, because they're eligible, again, for an $840 rebate. One little tricky part of it is they do have some caveats, and this is kind of a pain in the neck. that, because a lot of times what they're doing is they want you to be more efficient than the one you had. Well, in this case, it's not eligible if you are just replacing an electric dryer. I'm like, come on, it's going to be more efficient, but you're not eligible, even if it's not, even if it's an electric clothes dryer, you won't be eligible for this upgrade. So I'm debating whether I need to go like get a gas dryer and put it in the house so that I can say, it's like, then I think you're good to go. You're going to be much more efficient. I don't know if it's more efficient than the laundry rack. Did you have a question, Jane?
Oh, apparently we have one.
Oh, okay, nice. And can we all come over and like, watch you dry your laundry? Yeah, no, it's interesting, and I just saw this on the list of what's going to be available. And then we get to solar, which is my bailiwick, and they were nice enough to, the tax credit had gone down to 26%. They actually raised it to 30% again, and they've extended it for 10 years. So put up solar. Again, this is one of those deals where it's a tax credit, so if it costs you $20,000, you got to pay up front and then file for your $6,000. That 30% tax credit is for solar, wind, or geothermal. Basically anything that's going to produce your electricity or your heating.
How long does solar last?
The panels are warranted for 25 years. They work for, they're actually engineered to work for 40. I mean, there's panels that are out there that are still working. What happens is they're like me, they get a little less efficient as they get older. They degrade just a little bit, but most of the stuff that we're using right now is warranted after 25 years. They'll still be operating at 92% of where they started. So
Beginning was only 20 years.
Right, yeah, and a lot of warranties were less now. Now the warranties are 25 years for the output, 25 years for the product itself, and also 25 years they include the labor, so much longer.
Where are they made?
Most of them, it depends on which supplier we have. The company we were working with, SunPower, was coming out of Mexico. REC is made in, I'm going to say, Malaysia. So the whole point of this Inflation Reduction Act is to try and, I'm going to talk about domestic content again with solar. There's two companies making solar panels in the U.S. Hanwha, which is one of the biggest Chinese companies, just announced that they're expending I don't know how many $1 billion on their plant in Georgia. So they're going to be making, right now they're making some down in Georgia, they're assembling, so they're going to be making more. First Solar is a big company in the US, and SunPower has partnered with them to come out with a line. And then Mission Solar is another company that makes them in the US. So what you're going to see is, and I'll start to show you some of the bonuses. So for a lot of projects that are going to be coming up, there's a 30% tax credit. They're going to give you bonuses, and these are especially on larger commercial systems for domestic content, for paying prevailing wage, and I'll go into that in a couple slides. But and there's no price cap on the size of a solar array, so whatever you pay, 30% of the total amount is going to come back to you. And as Carl mentioned, that if you're getting $6,000 back, but you only put in $4,000 worth of income tax, then you can roll it over to the next year. You can do it for 10 years to get all of that back. And there's no income or location restrictions on applying for that tax credit. Yep.
Through the time that you've been in business, have you seen the technology or efficiency change? How much electricity is produced per square meter?
Yeah, so he's asking if we've seen, in the time that I've been in the business, efficiency. I mean, they're always increasing the efficiency. Right now, it's most of the premier panels that we're doing are about 20.7 or 21% efficient. That hasn't changed a lot. What's happening, the solar increases a little bit each year. You're starting, you'll see my system is 9 years old, and we had state-of-the-art, we had the modern one there, 250 watt panels. Now we're putting up 420 watt panels. they're a little bit bigger, but so that's how much it's gained in 9 years. Having said that, we recently changed, needed to put on a new roof. So we took our solar panels down, and there was an opportunity for me to put up some 400 watt panels, but I wouldn't need as many. I just put them back up because they're doing exactly what I hired them to do 9 years ago. They still eliminate my electric bill. They still keep working. So for me, I just put them back up. They're 250 watts, but they're still doing what they're supposed to do. But there are, where you're starting to see most of the advances now is in the inverter capabilities and the batteries. And so, nice segue into batteries. So with this bill, we're getting a lot of calls now for people who just want a battery because they might lose power for 3 hours, and they're losing power more frequently. And last year, up until January 1st, it was not, a standalone battery was not eligible for a 30% tax credit. It had to charge with solar panels. So if someone asks us, I am interested in a battery, I'm like, you might as well put up some solar too to help charge when the power goes out. Now it can be standalone. And again, there's no cap on the price of it. So it's a 30% tax credit, just like for the solar. And then we're going to start to talk about some of the bonus adders. Most of this will be for larger systems, but this is the direction. This was the intent of this bill, is to really focus on the U.S. making things. So you're going to get, a large project can get a 30% federal tax credit, a 10% domestic content bonus. So right now they're saying 100% of the steel and iron. Well, we don't make steel and iron in the U.S., so that makes that kind of hard. We're starting to again, or we're going back to. But also the manufactured goods, so the inverters, not a lot of inverters being made in the US. So you're starting to see a lot of companies scrambling. And then you can also get a 10% bonus tax credit if you're doing it on an energy community. And so they're talking about contaminated brownfield sites, areas that had been extracting coal or oil. And then there's low income, there's also bonuses for low income communities. So Section 45D talks about low income or Native American land, and a 20% bonus if you're doing a low income residential building project or a qualified low income economic benefit. So you can actually, if you put together a number of these, if it's on native land, if it's a low-income project and it's on a coal site or whatever, you can get up to 70% of the federal tax credits. You can stack them. So it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out on some of the larger stuff. This is the rollout of the domestic content requirement. So they're staying with the 100% steel and iron, going forward. Right now they're saying 40% of domestic content for all the rest of the goods. That's going to keep going up. So eventually, they're giving manufacturers some time to build up some capacity so that by 2027 we should be able to just buy American-made products. That would be something. And so then one other aspect, one of the difficulties with the solar tax credit is, as we've discussed, is the income tax has to be paid in. So retirees on a fixed income, nonprofits, schools, municipalities, they don't pay a tax, the income tax, so they have to pay a 30% premium. So what they've done is they've built into this. There had been talk, I think I mentioned earlier, about a direct payment in lieu of tax credit. So they've built that into this, and it's really awkward. I'm going to show you the timeline in a second, but basically it's up to a 2-year wait. And as a nonprofit, you're going to have to, say you're going to do a $75,000 project, but you can't really finance that. You'd love to get 30% of that back, and so it reduces the price by 30%. So really, you should be paying 70%, but you're going to have to finance 100% of it, and then you're going to have to file your taxes. You're going to do your project in 2023. You're going to file your taxes You're gonna have to wait 180 days, and then you're gonna sit there in this waiting period, so it's gonna be up to 2 years before you get your money back. I can't describe that as anything but really awkward. So the intention is really good. I'm hoping that they're gonna change that rollout a little bit. And then the other aspect of it is, again, trying to figure out how to monetize that 30% tax credit is transferability. So you're doing a project, you can't take advantage of the tax credit, but you have somebody who has a tax appetite. You know, they're paying income tax, so you can actually sell your tax credit to them. So they'll give you cash, they take the tax credit. Again, I think that one's probably gonna be not as cumbersome and awkward. But having said that, nonprofits are not eligible to do the transfer. So that kind of takes one of the avenues off the board. You know, I was kind of hoping for that. Again, we're waiting for guidance from the Treasury. You know, there's all kinds of phase outs that they're talking about. So I think this is gonna take probably until June to really flesh out and be a true game changer. Because for me, you know, municipalities, you know, does the town of Dorset want to do a solar array for their municipal building? They're gonna have to pay a 30% premium. So there should be a vehicle that allows this. There are a couple of companies that do financing for nonprofits, and they're already setting up ways to be able to do a bridge loan for the nonprofits so that they can pay the whole thing, and then when they get, you know, then the tax credit comes to. So it's just an awkward bunch of things that they have to set up. There's a sheet back there describing what tax credits are available now. You know, there's quite a few. You know, these are things that, you know, if you want to do something today, these are available to you. These are the discounts, rebates that are coming soon, okay? So you'll see some of them are on both lists. You know, heat pumps on this one are $8,000. Heat pumps on this are $2,000. I like the $8,000 better, you know, but it's not rolled out yet. So we're gonna talk to our accountants and say, do I wanna wait for 3 months, you know, to be able to take advantage of the $8,000 and keep all your receipts. And then for municipalities, I'm mostly talking about residential stuff, but I know that a number of people are here with energy committees and whatnot. And so there are a number of programs. I'm not gonna get into all the, I mean, there's a million. The great thing about that, the guidebook, is it's searchable, and I'll pull it up if you want. I can show you. You can look up municipalities, and it'll just give you the 40 references in the 185 pages that tell you what's available to municipalities. Clean aviation fuel, there's 3 pages on that. So there's a number of different programs. But one thing that is gonna be available for municipalities is some competitive grants. And so just like I'm saying that you should do an energy audit, if you're a municipality and you're thinking about possibly trying to see if you can get this money, this record money that's coming down for your benefit, start your programs now. Get an energy, figure out how many heat pumps you want in that municipal building. You know, what's that gonna look like? You know, how much solar do you need? What's the battery situation? Are we gonna put in heat, you know, Dorset's building a new municipal building. Are we gonna put EV chargers? Why wouldn't we? There's money, there's gonna be money available. So it really would behoove municipalities right now to do a bunch of advanced planning so that they can be in line to catch some of this money that's raining down. And then one of the biggest difficulties for those of us who are in the industry and probably for people who aren't is finding contractors. We wanted to do some more weatherization in our basement. We had done the same thing you did. We had some work done 5 years ago, and then we wanted a little bit more, and we can't get somebody for 7 months to return our call. So what they did was said they recognized that, and so built into this is $200 million to develop workforce training. Now, it's going to be up to the states to implement that, and whether it's setting up a nonprofit. I mean, this is one of the biggest problems, you know, heat pump installers. I can tell you solar installers. So finding contractors to be able to do this work is a difficulty. So I do want to show you the cleanenergy.gov is that one website that I was talking about. And then this is Rewiring America. And they have this really, really cool calculator. And so what you can do is you can, your zip code is 05255. Are you a homeowner or a renter? So in this case, I've got it as a homeowner, 95,000, 4 people in the house. And when I calculate, it's telling me total incentives are 20,450. If I switch this to a renter and calculate, lesser amounts, and then if I scroll down the list, here's what's available. With my electric stove, the heat pump clothes dryer, we can get John and Jane's heat dryer, and a few electric vehicle stuff. So this is just a really good calculator. You can play around with this, homeowner. You can, whether you're filing as head of the household, filing jointly, et cetera. So rewiringamerica.org. They also have a handbook that's really handy. So I would say, between the Inflation Reduction Guidebook and Rewiring America's handbook, those are really good resources. You're going to lean on Efficiency Vermont, and certainly any Energy Committee person who's plugged in is hopefully going to be able to give you some information. Any other questions?
Yes, you said Georgia was going to start making solar.
Yeah.
And you said there was another state.
Well, no, I said First Solar is another company, and I'm not sure where they're doing it. I know that one company was doing it in Oregon, so I'm not sure exactly where else. I believe there's some being made in Texas. There's Buffalo had a plant that was making some Panasonic solar panels. I don't know if they're still doing it. They started going with a third-party supplier instead. So you're starting to see more and more. I don't know where First Solar is. I think they're in Texas.
I thought I had heard that basically solar took so much energy to produce and it polluted so much. I mean, that's primarily why it was done in China, because they don't have the same pollution standards we do. I'm surprised that they were letting it come to the United States.
No, those are not the reasons why it's being made in China. It's because it's cheap labor. Yeah.
Pollution concerned with producing this?
No.
Oh, my goodness.
No.
What about when you take it off your roof and you have to get rid of it?
Yeah, there's recycling programs as well. And most of these things are going to last 40 years anyway, but they do have recycling. It's glass, it's silicone, it's metals. So you can recycle solar panels. Yep.
Is there a calculator similar to that for electric vehicle purchase? Because I haven't been able to find, the dealer knows nothing, it's all up to me, and I've called several places in Vermont government, but.
She's asking if there's a calculator similar to that. If you go to Drive Electric Vermont, they're really comprehensive information. I believe they're right up to date. I mean, they stay on top of things. I was going to say there's a comparable one in Massachusetts, but I would urge you to, if you're going to get your electric car, get it in Vermont for a lot of the reasons that, just for the warranties and for the tax credits and everything.
But actually, we couldn't find an electric car in Vermont, so we got it in New York, but we still were able to get all the tax incentives here in Vermont.
Okay, yep.
And the dealer gave us a tax incentive off the car there. I mean, it was just incredible.
Yeah, I think, at the dealers, they're really good at being able to tell you what the what's available statewide, and then also there's utility rebates, there's other local rebates, so, yeah, Green Mountain Power gives you a lot.
So I do have a question. I thought there was a limit on how much money you can spend to make your house energy efficient, starting with 2006, when you do your taxes, it tells you how much money each year, and then you're capped. And isn't that still happening?
In a lot of these categories, there's no cap. On a lot of, and I think on some of these categories, there is a cap for what you can get for tax credit. I mean, you can go ahead and do the work. Well, one interesting thing is that there's a cap on the heat pump program, but it's per year. So if someone tells you need 2 heat pumps, you could do 1 and then get the tax credit the following year as well. You have to look at if that makes sense, installation-wise, price-wise, et cetera. But yes, there's a cap on some of the programs and not on the
I
others.
think it's when you go to, we had 3 energy audits. And so we went with efficiency Vermont, and then we did all the work. In fact, we did more work than, but then by the time we did all the work, we couldn't get any more credit back on them because we already got. So I'm like, great, so we just put in $14,000 worth of brand new, triple pane windows. And
Yeah, this program definitely increases that. But I do think, again, talk to your installer because they ought to know what, how much you can get for what you're putting in.
Bill, you talk about the importance of having starting with an audit. I couldn't use that so strongly, but one of the advantages is if you do get an audit through NeighborWorks, which is Heat Squad, safely. They have recommendations for contractors, and they know who is available if you back up, if you give you as many names as there are, that they know of. So that's a great resource, because it's kind of changing.
Yeah.
What about brand new construction? As opposed to retrofitting?
They actually have some really good incentives for the way you build your house. There are builder incentives, and it's worth taking a look at the document because what they do is depending on where the building is, they have a certain amount of, it's like a $2,500 rebate for energy efficiency based on how the building process that you're doing, and that can be multiplied depending on what else you're doing. So I don't know all the specs on that, but there's a whole section on building a new house, and a lot of that is going right to the contractor. So that's how they do the rebate program. But yes, there's
A whole section in the IRA or
Yep.
Efficiency Vermont?
In the IRA. Efficiency Vermont will still be able to get you your rebates. I'm just talking about the construction of the building. Then the rest of it is all going to be available for the appliances, et cetera. But as far as the construction goes, there's actually a lot of money for that as well. Yep.
Do geothermal heating and cooling systems fall under the heat pump umbrella?
They do. Yep. I don't know if it's under the heat pump umbrella, but it is under the heating and cooling. So,
Is it geothermal in Vermont?
oh yeah, yep, yeah. There's a lot of people doing geothermal. It's not my It's not my area of expertise. I know that whenever somebody has a geothermal, they need a lot of solar because they're energy intensive. But they're probably less energy than it would have been to heat the house. And I think depending on how you do your geothermal, how deep you go, it's probably more efficient. I don't know, I couldn't give you an explanation for the best way to do it, but yeah, there are plenty of people doing geothermal.
Have you heard of heat pump boilers for radiant heating systems? Is that something that's done at all?
It is, and it's a kind of a unicorn. I mean, I have baseboard heat in my house, and I had an old clunky oil burner, and we just wanted to replace that. Or people have radiant heat, and to be able to do a heat pump version of that, we we keep finding an installer who knows about it, and we're trying to get the SKU number, and I think we're getting there. I'm not sure that we're there yet. I think what happens typically with these contractors is they want to put in what they put in before. They want to replace it with, it's a more modern version, but it's the exact same thing, which drives me a little bit crazy. But I do think that we're getting closer. Danielle might be able to give you a name. Do you remember? Somebody was talking to us about doing some radiant heating and having a heat pump version of that. Is that?
I'll see if I can find something.
Yeah, we'll have to look that up. Jim?
Yeah, Mitsubishi is doing that.
Mitsubishi.
There's a company out of Brattleboro that has a product called Sandin. It's an air to hot water. I have to say, we've done some exploration of it over the last few years for our habitat bills, some of which are radiant floor. And it is extremely expensive for what Bill was saying. It's not an easy, common thing to do. Can be done, it is done technically, but it's not something most contractors want to get involved with.
Just see if it's being done in Germany, and then because we have baseboard heat, and our gas boiler died, and we found an electric boiler that would work with our baseboard. And I talked to my plumber and my electrician, and they said, no, we're not doing it. I said, no. I said, yeah, it's available. I can see it. They're doing it. And I finally made my electrician find one in Syracuse. He got one, and I put my electrician and my plumber together and goes, we can do this. So we had this huge boiler, that broke down, and we replaced it with this little suitcase. And it works. It uses a lot of electricity. That is our backup system. So it does use a lot of electricity, but it works. So sometimes contractors are a little slow in adopting.
We do have a Riley rig for our hot water, for our showers. We have 4 locker rooms. We use air-to-water systems, Sandin. One of the things of it is you need a fairly large storage tank. Reason being is air to air and air to water does not develop high temperatures as quickly, obviously, as a possible. So you need some space. This is where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
You said the new system is electric, but uses a lot of electricity. But I think when it's running, it really uses up the juice, or your electric consumption over a period of time, because you're using heat pumps also.
Right. Yeah. So when I turn it on, the pipes have been sitting there very cold. Our basement is chilly. So it needs some juice to really get the water in the pipes up. Once it's running, it uses less. But so when we're using it, honestly, the only time I use it is when my daughter comes home, because she lives in New York City and she's used to it being 70 degrees in the house, and we don't heat that way. But it works, and so we'll turn it on. Yeah.
We have about 5 more minutes. The library closes shut at 6.
If we're here at 6, we're stuck all night. So. Yeah, John, last question.
Yeah, so another item that's available in Europe, but I have not been able to find in the U.S. Vehicle to home or vehicle to grid.
Vehicle to grid.
Charging.
Yep.
Right, we have a leak, and it's got that capability, but I can't find the charge.
Yeah, in Japan, you can use your Nissan Leaf to power your building. And Ford is advertising the F-150 as you can power your whole house. They haven't given us the information about what that inverter looks like, the bidirectional inverter.
Yeah, they partnered with the solar company to develop that. Yep.
Yeah, so we're getting close to the vehicle to grid. I don't think we're quite there yet. I guarantee you can probably jerry-rig so that you can run your house off of her Leaf, but she's not gonna appreciate that. And also, when we've looked at that, they said, yeah, you'll void the warranty if you do that. But, so they are coming out with the technology, and it's just a matter of getting that inverter.
Yeah, so Nissan has got approved one vendor, but they're only doing industrial vehicle to grid.
Right.
And I guess Green Mountain Power, that pilot project was one of the probably reaching out from the regulations.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I think we're not that far away. Because right now I have a battery in my barn. I can charge, if we lose power, I can charge my electric car with my solar in my battery, and I could do the reverse. So, I think we're getting close to that part of the energy management systems. Yeah, especially now that all the vehicles are announcing that, hey, you can run your house off your truck. Well, all right, thanks everybody for coming.